Ali Mohammed Al-Sharafa Al-Hamadi said, in the glorious Qur'an, the conclusion, the greatest crisis in the history of Muslims is not that they differed in their understanding of the Qur'an. That is something necessitated by the nature of human minds and the differences in their capacities for understanding. Rather, the real crisis began when human interpretations were transformed into religion and the words of interpreters became a reference that competed with the word of Allah and even took precedence over it on many occasions until people began to judge the Quran according to interpretation instead of judging interpretation according to the Quran. Allah sent down His book as guidance, mercy and light for all the worlds. He did not send down another book alongside it to explain it, nor did He place between Himself and His servants a class that would monopolize its understanding or speak in His name. Rather, He addressed all people and called upon them to reflect, saying, a blessed book which we have revealed to you, that they might reflect upon its verses, and that those of understanding will be reminded. If Allah had wanted His servants to imitate the interpreters, He would not have called them to reflect upon His book, and He would have made their reference the statements of men rather than His verses. In reality, interpretation is nothing more than a human understanding, and human understanding does not possess the quality of infallibility, nor does it carry the sanctity of revelation. Therefore, it is not permissible for it to be transformed into a binding religion or into a reference higher than the Quran. The dangerous turning point came when books of interpretation became, in the view of many Muslims, the obligatory path to the Quran, to the extent that people were made to believe that the Quran could only be understood through them and that whoever read the book of Allah directly had gone astray. It was as though Allah had revealed a book that people were incapable of understanding except through the mediation of human beings. This contradicts the clear statement of the Quran, which declares that it is a clear book, that it is an explanation of all things, and that it is light, guidance, and mercy, and that its verses are clear. Allah the Exalted said, and we have revealed to you the book as an explanation of all things, and as guidance, mercy, and good tidings for the Muslims. And He glorified and exalted said, then do they not reflect upon the Quran? If it had been from other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction. If the Quran needed the statements of human beings to explain itself, Allah would not have described it as an explanation of all things, nor would He have commanded all people to reflect upon it. Many interpretations did not stop at explaining the language or bringing the meaning closer to understanding. Rather, they introduced into the Quran narratives, statements, schools of thought and philosophies until the word of Allah became mixed with the words of human beings, and the reader sometimes could no longer distinguish where the verse ended and where the interpreter's opinion began. The Quran did not command us to follow the interpreters, rather it commanded us to follow what Allah has revealed. Allah the Exalted said, follow what has been revealed to you from your Lord, and do not follow other than Him any allies. Little do you remember. Language is a means of understanding the Quran, not an authority over it. Poetry is linguistic evidence, not a judge over the intent of Allah. The statements of people are not evidence of the intent of Allah, rather the evidence is the book of Allah itself. The Quran explains some of itself through other parts of itself, and it is the criterion by which all statements are weighed. Therefore, any interpretation that contradicts the apparent meaning of the Quran, contradicts its objectives, or imposes upon the verses meanings that they cannot bear, does not acquire legitimacy merely because it was written in an old book or because it became famous among people. What matters is not the antiquity of the statement, but its conformity with the book of Allah. The Quran establishes a decisive principle in dealing with those who came before us, saying,
that was a nation which has passed on. It will have what it earned, and you will have what you have earned, and you will not be asked about what they used to do. This verse liberates the Muslim mind from the captivity of the past and affirms that the responsibility of every generation is to seek the truth for itself in the Book of Allah, rather than making what previous generations said a judgment upon the Qur'an. Allah will not ask us what so and so or such and such person said. Rather, He will ask us what we ourselves did with His verses. Then He, glorified and exalted, establishes a truth that leaves no room for reinterpretation. These are the verses of Allah. We recite them to you in truth. Then in what statement after Allah and His verses will they believe? The truth is in the verses themselves, not in what is added to them, and the criterion is what we recite of the word of Allah, not what people have written about it. For this reason, one of the most serious sins is for a person to attribute to Allah something that He did not say. Allah the Exalted said, "And do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, about all those will be questioned." And He, glorified and exalted, said, "Say, my Lord has only forbidden immoralities, what is apparent of them and what is concealed, and sin and oppression without right, and that you associate with Allah that for which He has not sent down authority, and that you say about Allah that which you do not know." How much has been said in the name of Allah that Allah never said? How much has been attributed to the Qur'an that is not in it, and how much has human opinion been transformed into a binding doctrine without any authority from the Book of Allah? For this reason, He, glorified and exalted, said, "And they have not appraised Allah with true appreciation." Among the greatest forms of failing to appreciate Allah with the appreciation due to Him is to place the words of human beings above His word, to make human interpretation stronger than the text of the Qur'an, and to believe that Allah did not make His intent clear until human beings came and explained it. Allah knows His intent better than His creation. He is the one who undertook to make His book clear, and He is the one who described it as clear, as light, and as guidance. Therefore, it is not permissible for the words of people to become the foundation, while the Qur'an becomes subordinate to them. Among the most painful verses in this regard is the saying of Allah the Exalted, "And the Messenger has said, O my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Qur'an as something abandoned." Abandoning the Qur'an does not merely mean abandoning its recitation, it also means abandoning its authority as a reference, replacing its judgment with the statements of human beings, allowing interpretation to take precedence over the text, and multiplying books that speak about the Qur'an, while the Qur'an itself disappears from the leadership of thought and life. It is time for Muslims to distinguish between the word of Allah and the words of people, and to understand that the Qur'an does not need human guardianship, nor an interpretive authority that monopolizes its meanings. Every interpretation is a human opinion that binds no one except its author, and it has no authority except to the extent that it agrees with the Qur'an. The Muslim community will not emerge from its crisis as long as it makes interpretation into religion and makes the statements of men a criterion for truth. It will not return to sound judgment unless it restores the Qur'an to the place Allah intended for it, the first and final reference and the criterion by which every statement is weighed. The Qur'an is the complete word of Allah. It is the light that cannot be extinguished, and it is the truth to which falsehood cannot come. As for all interpretations, they are human products that possess neither sanctity, nor infallibility, nor binding authority. And whoever seeks guidance should seek it directly from the Book of Allah, and should make every statement that comes after it subject to it, not an authority over it, because Allah did not command us to follow interpretations, rather He commanded us to follow what has been revealed to us from our Lord.